near Boulder, Colorado, by simply rooting into the core of your inner queen, your highest self within. So, welcome. And so, I'm excited to dive in today and find out more about like I think I want to start with like how did coming from production and especially on the backdrop of 9/11 and in the world of acting and on Broadway, how did that lead you to yoga?
Well, I was really redirected, I would say, by 9/11 in my life, because I was up to that point very focused on being an actress, singer, dancer. And I went to train at NYU, and that was kind of my sole focus through, the early part of my life. And then I got out of school and I opened my first professional show, and 9/11 happened like right in the middle of rehearsals. So that was a huge shakeup, obviously, for everybody. And for me, it really redirected me to Los Angeles because I was just very traumatized and I lived downtown. And so I was right in the middle of things. And I ended up finding a yoga studio in Los Angeles called Golden Bridge Yoga, which is was a Kundalini yoga center. And it really helped me to heal from my trauma from 9/11. And I ended up working at that yoga center and doing a teacher training there. And then just getting really deeply involved with Kundalini yoga right at that point in my life. And it was such a profound kind of shift into a spiritual lifestyle for me. And then from there, I started realizing I wanted to tell my own stories. And that's how I got into producing and writing, screenwriting. And I still act, but I'm much more involved with the whole creation process.
Hmm. It's kind of like it seems like it came full circle for you. You started here, went to heal from all of the trauma and the things that had happened, and then brought it back around and have created this full loop that even has you doing films about yoga, which we're going to get into later, which I think is super fascinating. But for those that are here, and if you're here and you want to pop on and ask a question, you're more than welcome to. We're also going to be doing a couple of meditation processes today and stuff. So we're not just going to sit here and chat at you the whole time. But before we do that, I do want for those that are listening to us, what is the difference between what we know here in the Western world as yoga and Kundalini yoga? Because you're specifically talking about a very specific type of yoga. So I'd love to, for those that might not know, like discuss what exactly is Kundalini yoga. And then also you are Jivamukti, if I said that right, yoga. I would also love for you to share a little bit about that path too.
Sure. Yeah. So Jivamukti is a hatha-based yoga, which is the type of yoga that most people in the West are familiar with, that has, physical asanas and a very physical focus, in terms of, what you think of when you go to the gym to yoga or any of the many yoga studios we have now. Jivamukti, however, also has a very spiritual component. It incorporates sacred chanting, the study of Sanskrit, sacred language, and prayer, and it kind of incorporates that hatha that we're all used to with more spiritual practices.
Mhm.
Kundalini yoga is completely different than any hatha yoga, in that there are thousands of sets and meditations in Kundalini yoga, and you're not doing the type of asanas that you're familiar with, with downward dog and kind of moving through postures that a lot of us know at this point. But all the sets are very different, and they're focused on different specific, things that you might be working through, like strengthening your nervous system, for instance, or there's any countless number of things that you might specifically be gearing towards. It also works more on the energy field. So Kundalini is an energetic practice. There's a belief that there's 10 bodies. So you're not just working on your physical body, but you're working on your pranic body, which is your breath, your subtle body, the space around you, your mental bodies, your negative mind, positive mind, neutral mind. It's a very comprehensive yoga practice, and there's a lot of meditation, a lot of breath work. There's many different types of breath that you can learn. And it's a really powerful, fast, transformative practice. Like when you get into Kundalini, they kind of say it's like getting in a sports car. Like you go on this very fast road to coming to your own inner alignment. And, you know, if it's done, it needs to be done in a proper way with, you know, the proper guidance, because it can be very powerful having Kundalini awakenings and kind of realizing if say your life is out of alignment, or you're doing something that you don't really want to be doing in your life. You're going to have a lot of shifts that happen with this practice. And I love both practices. I've also done other hatha yoga practices. I'm a big yoga fan all across the board. I think they all have immense value. These are just the two that spoke to me the most. I think because of the chanting. Kundalini also has a sacred language, Gurmukhi, which is a relative to Sanskrit. They're kind of cousins. And I love working with the language in the sacred texts, which is, you know, not as common in a lot of hatha classes in the US, for instance.
Well, I love that you've found, you know, the path to, because yoga in itself is here in the Western idea. We think of yoga, we think of asanas, we think of, you know, the physical movement of the body, but yoga actually means to yoke together, to unite. And it's as above, so below. We're bringing together body and spirit. And there's actually 8 legs, right? There's like all these different things that actually happen in the actual practice of yoga, or what we know to be the yoga that comes down from the Vedic traditions. And yet it's been filterized in our Western society in a different way. And so I love that you're coming back and saying, you know, the Kundalini and how this works with our energy systems and the 10 bodies. And yet I still love these other ones too. And they're all valuable. There, you know, one of the things you said about the Kundalini is like, you know, there's the breath work and there's a meditation. So why don't we start with giving people maybe a direct experience of something from the Kundalini lineage that we can always try together right now?
Okay, that sounds great. Maybe 5 minutes or so, or do you have a
Yeah,
specific?
perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great. So when we start Kundalini, we always begin by tuning in. So you'll just sit where, you know, if you're sitting on a chair or on the floor with your legs crossed, you'll close your eyes. A lot of this practice is done with the eyes closed, and you'll just find an alignment in yourself and a straight spine, focusing on the chin being pulled in slightly so you feel like your entire spine is straight. And then we'll just take a couple breaths in and out through the nose just to connect to the breath. So let's inhale deeply through the nose. Hold the breath. Eyes are closed and focused right at the third eye point. You're going to hold the breath, relax the shoulders. Exhale slowly through the nose. Hold the breath out. Inhale. Hold the breath. Lengthen the spine. Finding that inner stillness. Exhale. Hold the breath out. So just empty your lungs. Good. And then relax the breath. Keep the eyes closed. And you're just going to rub your hands together, focusing on the heat between your palms being your own energy, your own creative essence. And then you're going to bring your hands into prayer pose at the center of your chest. So your 2 hands are pressed together firmly. This balances the right and left sides of the brain. And we use a mantra to open every Kundalini practice, which is Ong, O-N-G, Namo, Guru, Dev, Namo. This is reminding us that we're connected to all living beings and all of life in the universe. So we'll inhale and I'll chant this once, and then you can join in when you feel comfortable to do that. We'll do it maybe 3 times. Inhale deeply. Exhale. Inhale to begin. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Om Namo Guru Dev Namo. Inhale. One more time, hold the breath, lengthen the spine, feeling your lower chakras rooted into the earth. Good. Exhale, release the hands down to your knees. And you're just going to imagine there's a piece of string at the center of your heart that's guiding your heart center forward on the inhale and directly backward on the exhale. So we're just going to start with some spinal flexes. This awakens the Kundalini energy that's coiled at the base of the spine. It's a foundational posture of this practice. And you want to get as much breath moving as you can. So inhaling forward, exhaling back. You can start slowly at first if you've never done this before, and then you can gradually get faster. Eyes are closed. Good. Inhale forward. Beaming out through the heart center. So opening through the chest, relaxing the shoulders down, feeling that expansion through your heart center. Good. And then exhale, relax the shoulders, place the hands on top of the shoulders, fingers in front, thumbs in back. Arms are parallel to the ground. You're going to inhale, twist left, exhale, twist right. Again, this is working on the spinal energy, which is right at the center of this practice. Powerful breath through the nose if you're able to. Inhaling left, exhaling right. Again, you can take it at your own pace. If this is a new movement for you, you might get dizzy. You can always slow it down or take a break. Inhale, center. Again, hold the breath, open through the heart center, lengthen through the spine. Hold the breath. Good. And exhale. Bring the hands down. Now I'll just show you a breath called breath of fire, which is one of the main breaths we do in Kundalini it creates a lot of energy quickly. And depending on what mudra you use, it has different effects. So if this is kind of like drinking a cup of coffee, they say, if you press your ring finger and your thumb together like this, and you can just rest them on your knees. And then breath of fire is a rapid inhale, exhale, ideally through the nose. But when you're first learning it, you can do it like a dog pant through the mouth with the tongue out. And if you know the breath or you feel comfortable with it, you do it through the nose. So navel is pumping. We'll just go a little bit longer. Inhale. Now try pressing the tongue on the roof of your mouth as you hold the breath. Pull up at the rectum, navel, and sex organs. This is pulling the energy up. Good, and exhale. We'll just do one or two more things. So now you're going to fold your fingers down with the thumbs straight out, and you're going to make a V with your arms. This is called ego eradicator. Eyes are closed and focused at the third eye point, right between the eyebrows, and begin breath of fire. You can do it with the tongue out, with the mouth, or through the nose. Last few seconds. Inhale. Pull the thumbs together overhead, stretch out through your spine. So you're lengthening up through the spine. Hold the breath. Pull the energy up, rectum, navel, sex organs, tongue on the roof of the mouth. And then on the exhale, you're going to really imagine your energy field around your body as it's growing brighter and brighter. And you're slowly exhaling the hands down, like through that field. Your fingertips are claiming your own energetic space, which becomes very bright as you do this practice because we're working with that particular body as well. And then you're going to ground your fingertips into the earth, reconnect yourself to the earth so you stay grounded. And just take a couple breaths here, and then I'll close out the space. So you should feel this, you feel this energy that's moving through you. And then we use stillness to integrate the energy. So at the end of a yoga set, which would be longer than this, we would have a shavasana where we would lie down, and maybe the teacher would play a gong or some relaxing music. There's a whole lot of Kundalini Kirtan music that you can use for this practice. But for now, just take a couple breaths in stillness. Focus on the inhale and the exhale. And then bring your hands back into prayer pose as we began. And we'll close out the space with 3 long satnams. Satnam is another mantra we use, which means truth is my name. So we do a long sat and a short nam at the end of class to close out. So you can listen the first time if you want to. Inhale through the nose. Sa nam. Sa nam. Sa nam. Satnam.
Oh, do we all feel blissed out now? Mm. Thank you for sharing that wonderful, just some, key techniques and things. And just even in that, just short amount of time, you could feel the power and the energy in both your body and the field around you. Just so beautiful. And so your course is the title's Inner Queen. And it's,
Yes.
about Kundalini and women's wisdom. And the title, Inner Queen, it evokes such powerful imagery. So, what does the Inner Queen archetype mean to you personally?
The inner queen for me is the core of all of us women here that are here. The course was originally conceived for women that feel they're here to be leaders into
Mm,
this consciousness age that we're stepping into. So
mm,
it came to me a couple years ago as a way for women who are, here to serve in many different ways to come together and to really root into the core of the queen within themselves and that leader that's ready to emerge in a bigger way to bring whatever the unique gifts and piece of the puzzle that we each have, which is obviously different for everybody. And so it's a course that uses Kundalini yoga as the technique and tool to access that part of ourselves. And then there's also, journaling and reflection and meditations and different pieces to it. And I taught it initially live in a yurt outside of Boulder, which was really beautiful because we were surrounded by nature. And there was a number of, I think we had like, see, 9 women in that group. So it was a good size, but not too big. And it was just a 4-week course. And I did a different Kundalini set each time. And then because I'm blessed to have a filmmaker who, is with me all the time, he filmed it really well. And we put it up on this platform. And so the inner queen is something I think all women have within them. And as we're moving into a time where leadership is needed from women specifically, I believe, I think if we can access that part of ourselves and lean into that part of ourselves, the world will benefit greatly.
yeah. So, how do you see Kundalini yoga, that particular practice, really supporting the women and with like claiming their gifts and their power in that? Like, where's the lineage to that or the line that you see?
Well, Kundalini kind of clears out all the distractions and the fears and the patterns that maybe we've had from childhood or traumas. It's a really profound transformative practice. So it naturally brings us to the core of our power because the things that throw us off as women or just as people in life are addictions and traumas and maybe ways that we've identified ourselves based on how we were treated as a child or how we've witnessed there's obviously a number of things that we go through. And I personally have been through a lot of those things, and I've been through a lot of chaos in my earlier years internally. And so my experience with this practice is that it really distilled me into the strongest version of myself. And I experienced that firsthand in my 20s when I did it. And then I experienced it again in the past few years. I re-engaged this practice. And I was able to heal a lot in myself. And I've witnessed it heal a lot in people that I've worked with. So I think as we heal ourselves, then our inner queen can naturally emerge because it's not battling all these other people inside that need attention, and really need to come into unity with our strongest side in order to do that type of work effectively, I think.
I think that it's clear to see that your path with Kundalini yoga and your yoga in general is a very healing experience, right? Both through healing your own trauma, through the ways that you've seen with working with others, and even through what you've been sharing in a documentary that you have. So you have a background, obviously, in Broadway and film and now conscious production. And this is just so compelling. It's just such a beautiful energy. So what catalyzed you into purpose-driven storytelling? Like where did you take the leap? Obviously, there was the yoga and that piece of it to heal your trauma, but what took you into the leap into the Living Light Productions?
It was actually a vision I had in my early 30s, right after 9/11, and right after starting Kundalini, maybe I was a few months into it, where I started having these visions in my meditations about my destiny or my purpose here, that it was tied in with Hollywood, but it was tied in with using the consciousness that was developing inside myself as I was doing these practices very deeply at that time in my life. So I was having a lot of big changes very quickly. And I had this revelation that if I was able to master the craft of storytelling through the Hollywood vehicle specifically, that I would be able to share this experience I was having with with a way wider audience, um, because Hollywood is magnetic, in some ways positive, in some ways negative, at the moment, but it reaches people in every part of the world. It's something that people are drawn to naturally. And for those of us in the world who are avoiding kind of yoga, healthy food, like I've been through phases in my life where I was drinking, doing drugs, all those things that we go through and explore. And during those unhealthier times of my life, I wasn't really craving like yoga or, we're all in different places. And so I wanted to find a way to use my background, with storytelling from my Broadway training, to tell a different kind of story
Mhm.
that actually takes viewers through the journey from darkness to light. So my perception of a lot of spiritual film is that it's a lot focused on the light, which is beautiful, like films about, the Dalai Lama or different, spiritual leaders that we admire there. But what I found compelling, based on my own experience in the darkness, was that the darkness and the light live together and as part of the same whole, and that for a story to be truly magnetic, you had to really delve into the darkness, because that's what most people are dealing with. So if you live too far in the light, most people won't watch it. They can't relate to it. And a lot of people don't go to yoga class for the same reason. So I wanted to kind of provide a bridge for people who are in the darkness, a lot of us, to find a way out of that through a story that I presented through film. So it started in my 20s, and then I met my creative partner when I was 30, and he was leaving the Hollywood thing. He was a big Hollywood producer. He produced Pleasantville with Reese Witherspoon and a bunch of other, like Austin Powers and big movies. But he wanted to start telling his own stories too, and directing and writing. And so we partnered, and for 15 years we've been developing 9 different film projects,
Mhm.
and they all kind of fit into that category of what I just explained. So it's been a journey.
Personally have hit on something here, because this is my belief also, that dark to the light in the story. So I just had my book just recently came out, and it's made, I was an international drug trafficker in my 20s, and I went from that to being a spiritual teacher where I've helped thousands all over the world. And there's this dark story where I've, like, the pieces of my life from before are what draws. I taught in detention centers and prisons, and the normal person connects to me because of that deep dark story that I have of where I was. But then they get to actually see someone that takes and transforms it into a light, into something different. And I really believe, like, people watch Netflix or Max or whatever, and they want the sensational story. They want this, like, I
Right.
watched on Max recently this show called Sons of Ecstasy, and I watched it. And I was like, man, they made this film, and these guys all went to prison, and I was like, my story is better than that, and I didn't go to prison. And I was like, right. So people are hungry, but I think the time is now, is like, instead of just these sensationalized stories of, like, here's these guys that all went to prison. Like, what happens when you take this, and all the beauty that happens when you transform and you step into your purpose in the world, and how those things led you down that path. I think that this is just brilliant. So let's talk about the documentary that you're currently, like, you're getting ready to go back over to Europe, to the Ukraine. You have this documentary called Yogis of the Ukraine. And there's the women are supporting the troops in the homeland, their frontline work. I'd love to hear, how does this fit into that dark to light story line that you're working with?
Yeah, so Yogis of Ukraine is a perfect example of of the relationship of darkness and light, you know, the backdrop of the war that's actively happening in Ukraine, um, being the darkness that they're emerging from, and the practices that they're doing very effectively with frontline military is pretty unprecedented. I mean, it is unprecedented that the military that's right up on the front lines of battle is doing Kundalini yoga with teachers who are there helping them on a regular basis, and helping them recover from trauma, from some of them are amputee, you know, some of them have lost legs, some of them have, you know, there's been a lot of trauma and rape and all kinds of things, obviously, that happen in war. And the women that are featured in the film are incredibly wise. Like, we didn't know when we started this project. My creative partner Bob Degas was the one who went over there to film the interviews, and he filmed them in Ukrainian because he didn't want to have a translator interrupting the women as they were talking. So he didn't actually know what they were saying, and didn't really know what their wisdom was until he came back to the US and had them translated, and then realized these are like leaders of the new, like, conscious movement. And what they have to say is so profound. And I think it's a combination of them being so present with their lives and how precious their lives are, because they know it could end at any moment. They're very aware of that. And also because they're doing so much Kundalini yoga, and they are also Satnam Rasayan healers, which is an energetic healing modality that's connected to Kundalini yoga. They're just in this very peak, beautiful leadership place. And so the film really is a combination of sharing these interviews with these leaders, and then showing the military benefiting from doing yoga with them. And it's a beautiful film. You know, people are pretty blown away by it when they see it. And ultimately, you know, it's going to lead a movement towards this type of work being done in other war zones, and it's raising the frequency around war, which is obviously huge, you know, given our desire to move into a peaceful planet at this time.
So what do you have a favorite story or one of the from the documentary that you could share with, or something that you're just like, this is something that happened that was just really incredible?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I'll say also quickly before I answer that Bob, who directed the film, also wrote a book called Yogis of Ukraine, which goes into deeper interviews with these same women and with some additional people. And there's one story in that book that really, I mean, there's so many stories that are just really stunning, because really these people are dealing with, you know, when the bombs hit in Kyiv, for instance, there's there, it shakes, you know, it reverberates out. So it's not just like where the missiles hitting, but all the glass in the whole area shatters out of the buildings. And there's a story in the book about one of the women who, you know, one of the sirens goes off and they have to decide if they're going to go down to the bomb shelter or they're not going to. And a lot of people don't, because they don't want to get trapped alive in a bomb shelter. And so this woman is talking about how she going out to coffee this one day, and one of these alarms go, or these air raid sirens goes off, which a lot of them just ignore because it happens so often. And she gets pulled down into this bomb shelter with a bunch of people, you know, kind of unintentionally. And when she comes out, she realizes that all the glass has shattered down and there's blood everywhere. Like, if she had stayed above ground, she would have been covered in broken glass. But what's amazing about the story is that she uses Kundalini yoga to recover from the trauma from this, and they do it so effectively. Like, they all have these kind of stories. Some of them, you know, they all have different versions of the war part of it, but they all are so strong and capable, and they're not being driven by fear. They're being driven by courage and inner stillness, and they're helping other people, and they're not leaving. A lot of them are staying in Ukraine to help. You know, some of them have left or come and go, but a lot of them have chosen not to leave. So there's a huge contrast between things that most of us could not probably even imagine. You know, 9/11 for me was very traumatic, but I didn't have any direct like injury from it or anything like that. And I still am, the trauma goes for years, but they're dealing with this stuff all the time. And then they're kind of holding this protective energy field. And effectively, all of them are still living and still thriving. I mean, still in this strong space, 3 years into the war. So every story is amazing, but that one always is just very, the imagery is
Yeah.
intense.
Beautiful and magical, and just to show the power of collective and everything that can happen, right? Everything from being pulled in to a bunker when you normally maybe not would have done that, to the use of something so powerful to heal the trauma. We have less than 10 minutes left. This has been amazing. And so what I want to do is I just want to ask you, Alexandra, what's alive in your heart today? What would you like to share that maybe we haven't talked about yet, or something that, or a practice, or anything that you feel that might, you want to share with our audience today? Or
Well, what came to mind when you said what's alive in my heart is, I guess my hope and my invitation to people to not step away and kind of um, block out what's going on in the world. Because, for instance, with this project that we've been doing, we've been fundraising for it. And the film itself is incredibly impactful, but I think the topic is very intense for people, obviously, because war is something that we're all afraid of, and violence and the chaos that this kind of situation can have. And so I think we have a tendency to maybe just turn the other way when things are overwhelming and we're just trying to manage our own lives. So I guess what's coming up for me is that the Inner Queen course is something that I'm offering to people as a tool to find the courage and leadership within yourself, because it's so needed for conscious people and for everybody who, I mean, we all have consciousness, for everybody to evolve into your highest potential right now in a way that can be of service to to greater humanity. And I think to make that shift from just focusing on our own lives to actually caring about these other people and situations, and then actually taking action in some way, is a process and it's different for everyone. But I think when you have the Kundalini tools that allow you to be in alignment and deal with your anxiety, deal with any physical issues, deal with stress, deal with, you know, fear about money or whatever, addictions. Once you start addressing these things and you heal these things, then you're actually equipped to really be of service to this huge shift that's happening on the planet right now. And I think that's really our job as conscious leaders. And so that's what's in my heart right now is just asking people not to turn away from things that are hard, like war, because I do think there's hope if we stay with it and we send it enough of our own attention and love and action to change it, and I know that's, a lot of people think that's unrealistic, but I don't think it is. I think everything's changing on the planet right now. And the more that we come together and actually stand in peace and solidarity, the more we can create a new vibration around these dark places and actually see the changes in real time.
Mm, yeah, wow, that's powerful and really beautiful, because it is about conscious community really coming together and saying, how can we as a collective, right? Yes, we have to do the inner work. We have to start within, right? That you inverse and do that work. But then there's also, it's inner work and outer action, right? We do this inner work, and then how do I take a step into living into this community that that I'm a part of, and become a part of the consciousness that is there, and support it in the growth, so that we can all grow together. Because I do believe in, my lifetime, in the next 50, 60 years, that we will see the rise of a utopian more society, right? Like it is coming, there is there, but it's that right now we're in that darkness before the dawn. We're in those pieces where all of the stuff is breaking down, so that we can move through that. And yet we've got to come together and realize that at the core, we are all love, and that these are just symptoms that are showing up for us. And so bringing that together, I think that's really beautiful. So what's next for you, Alexandra? Any upcoming projects or inspirations or anything you feel called to share with us?
Yes, let's see, Monday in a couple of days, I'm flying over to Berlin to launch the what I'm calling the World Peace Tour, which is part of the Yogis of Ukraine project in real time. And we're going over to Ukraine, to Kyiv, for a week to share the film with the women and men who are featured in it and to kind of join hands with them energetically to get on board. And then we're coming back to Berlin, doing a big screening in Berlin, and then traveling through Europe and doing what we're calling peace parties, which are gatherings where we show the film and then we come together for a practice with everybody who sees the film, who's interested, and then we talk about and we come together and try to work out how a world of peace might be possible. And then we're building an online community on Mighty Networks where people can stay connected over time from different countries and cultures and build a movement basically. And so the film has been translated into nine languages now, and the book into seven. And we're looking to build like a global movement around this, and it's probably going to be a couple year process. But that's what's just around the corner for me.
Beautiful. I love it. And so how can our community best support your work and your mission moving forward?
Gosh, you guys have already done so much. I would say, well, we're meeting some of your European reps when we go over there. And once we have this online network completely open, we'd love to have people join it and just, I guess, spreading awareness of what we're doing and letting people be a part of it however they feel compelled. We're fundraising, obviously. This is all going to cost money. So we have a GoFundMe that's on our website, which is our website is yogisofukraine.com, and you can go to the GoFundMe and contribute to that. But there's also other ways to get involved and just kind of help us build a network of peacemakers, basically.
Beautiful. I love it. And so our final question for today is if your inner queen could speak directly to the women listening now, what would she whisper into their souls?
Mm. I think she would whisper, don't be afraid to be the fullest version of yourself. And there's no time like this moment to do that.
Right. There's no time like now. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Alexandra, for your wisdom and your beauty today and sharing that wonderful Kundalini practice with us. And you can all find the Inner Queen, a Kundalini yoga course for women ready to rise on the Stream Plus platform. So join that Stream Plus now, gain immediate access to this incredible program and to all of the other programs with the incredible spiritual teachers and programs. Thank you all so very much for joining us for another episode here. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much, Melissa.
Yeah. If you have like an email or something, I'd love to connect with you. I got some connections in Europe for you, and then I'm also going to be over there too. So if you want to like
Yeah,
in the chat or something, I will
sure.
shoot you over an email and we can get connected.
That sounds great. I'll put it in right there. Good to see
Okay.
you, Garth.
Thanks for playing.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much, guys.
Have a
Awesome,
great
everyone.
day.
Al-
Have a
Always
beautiful
a
day.
pleasure.